You're listening to the Real Estate Reality Show with EJ Hawkins and Cortez M. Johnson, only on LA Talk Radio.
Thank you for tuning in to the all-new Real Estate Reality Show. I'm your host, EJ Hawkins, and my co-host, Mr. Cortez Johnson.
Yes, sir. How you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How was your weekend?
My weekend was great. Today we went school shopping.
Oh, Lord. I'm not looking forward to that.
We got pens, papers, backpacks. Went to Nordstrom's Rack, got clothes.
Are you shopping at Nordstrom's Rack for your kids?
Oh, oops. Yeah, Nordstrom's Rack.
That's what happens when you live in the high life doing 10 loans a month.
Oh, no. And yesterday I did my 8-hour mortgage loan originator class. And it was nice and boring, but we have to do that every single year.
Right.
And we found out that the new CFPB that's coming out October 3rd,
Right.
there's going to be no more 30-day escrows.
Right. It will be 35, 40-day escrows.
It's going to be 45 and up. If everyone knows what they're doing.
Which won't happen.
Right. And so this class that I took was all loan officers doing the class for 2016, right? It's mandatory. And a lot of the loan officers are saying that a lot of the realtors think that they can outsmart the system. Well, what if we do this and do that? It could still be 30 days. No. The way that the time frames are,
right,
it's going to be 45 days plus to close the deal.
Well, it is what it is. At the end of the day,
is.
You know, it's best for the industry, for the consumer.
For the consumer. Right.
So that's good. What did I do? Oh, I went to Sweetie Pies.
Oh, yeah.
Lord have mercy.
Did you fall asleep after you ate?
I didn't get the itis because I went early enough. I went yesterday, but the line was too long, so I did a U-turn and left.
Oh, wow.
Man.
It was that many people there?
It was that many people. So we went back today, and you gotta, because the churches, they get out 12 o'clock,
right,
1 o'clock. We went right before people start getting out of church, so there was no line. So I got VIP service.
VIP. So
VIP.
Was this place on?
It's on
Diners and Drive. On cable.
Man, she got a show on OWN network.
Right. This place has been on TV.
Yeah, it's been on TV.
So what did you have?
What did I have? I had the fried chicken, the yams, greens, cornbread, sweet tea. I know your mouth is watering.
Oh my
right now.
God.
Yes, your mouth is watering. Yes.
Did you make it home?
I made it home. I did make it home. I had to go show a property today, and I made it there. I had green juice coming down my face, and I didn't notice it until my client told me about it. So,
well, I'm sure. Did you have leftovers?
I did have leftovers because I'm not a big eater, so I did have leftovers. But yeah, it was pretty good.
That sounds good.
And what else did I do?
What about the kids?
Oh, they gone.
Oh, okay, good.
We send them to their grandmother's house.
Oh,
and
okay.
We ship them off on the weekend.
Okay, just email them.
We eat. You know, the funny thing is they email me on their iPads and they FaceTime me only when they want something. Other than that, I hear nothing from them.
Well, that's standard.
Right, that's pretty standard. But yeah. So last week's show was a pretty good show. We gave tips on buying and selling. I got a lot of good questions from people in terms of like selling. When is a good time to sell?
Right.
Which is what today's topic is about. And some of the things that you can do to make sure you maximize, the amount of money that you get when you do sell your home.
Right.
So a couple of topics on that. I kind of, touch on, actually this probably is one of the best times to sell just based upon what the market is doing right now. It is a seller's market. Now, since Los Angeles is so large, you have micro economies in Los Angeles and micro real estate economics going on in the city. So, for instance, and I kind of touched on this last week. So, Culver City, Brentwood, L.A., the Valley, completely different real estate markets.
Right.
And if you're not familiar with those markets, you could find yourself in maybe not a world of trouble, but you could find yourself, kind of between a rock and a hard place, depending on what you're trying to do.
Right.
So, for instance, one of the reasons why now is one of the most perfect times to sell if you are thinking about selling is interest rates.
Exactly.
Interest rates are at a historical low. What are the rates
They
going at?
just dipped last week to about 4%.
Wow.
Yeah, they just had an adjustment.
Wow. 4%.
For the better, yes. So
Wow.
that makes it easier for the buyer to get in to purchase that home from the seller.
Right. It does. It does make it easier for the buyer to get in. However, it also creates tons of competition
Right.
for those buyers as well, depending on where you're looking to buy at. I know in most of the areas that I work in, I mean, it's pretty much a rat race to see if you can get your offer accepted on these properties.
Right.
So one of the first things that I would say that you should do if you're thinking about selling, you have to ask yourself, what is my goal? Am I selling for financial reasons, which is what it is most of the time, or am I selling because I want to take advantage of the opportunity that I have right now? Interest rates are low. It's a seller's market. I can get the maximum amount of money I can for my property and then buy with some of the lowest interest rates historically around.
Right.
So depending on what your goal is, how aggressive you can be sometimes with your pricing strategy, and how soon you put your property on the market. In some cases, I've had clients that if they don't get the offer that they're looking for because they don't have that type of motivation to move in a timely manner, they'll wait
Right.
for the best offer, which doesn't make any sense, which is retarded, by
Right.
the way, I must say. I mean, really and truly, the market is dictated by the buyers.
Exactly.
So whatever a buyer says your house is worth is literally what it's worth.
Exactly.
So again, you want to know what your why is. What is your goal when you're trying to sell your property? Once you figure that out, then all the other steps kind of fall into play. Again, you want to figure out, okay, if you are selling, because you're going to have to transition, whether it be you're renting or if you're buying, going to another place, you want to figure out, okay, how soon do I need to be there? Because in some cases, I had a client, they were selling and moving to another location because they wanted to be closer to their daughter's school because she was going to college. So there's a time frame that they felt like they need to be there so when she starts school.
Right.
So for that, we had an extremely aggressive pricing strategy so we can get her property sold, get that money and then transition it to wherever else they needed to go next. So that plays a big role in terms of, what you plan on doing when in this market right now. Although, you may hear the cliche that, you can put a shack, and I think I said that last time, you can darn near put a shack on the market
Right.
and sell it.
Right.
It's crazy. As a matter of fact, I have a shack for sale on the market and it's sold.
Right.
So it happens. And again, just to kind of recap on last week's show, I went into some things and I talked about some of the things that you want to do when you're putting your home on the market. You want to get an inspection.
Right.
Especially for those people who do not keep up with deferred maintenance.
Right.
What is deferred maintenance? Deferred maintenance is just the basic maintenance on your home, making sure that your roof is up to par, your plumbing, your electrical, mainly your major systems.
What about termite?
Termite too. Some people they have the monthly thing where they have Terminex come out and spray.
Right.
That's definitely something that you definitely want to do. But if you do not do that and you do not have the ability to do that, that is fine. What you definitely want to do is when you have your realtor over to the property looking at it, you definitely want to do a walkthrough with that person. And then a good realtor will be able to kind of do the eye test, kind of notice and give you some suggestions on some things that may need to be taken care of prior to putting a home on the market. I know one of the things that me and my partner always touch on, mainly her, is decluttering.
Please.
Oh, my Lord. Went into a house. I have a client, he wants to sell his house. Went to the house, walked in the door, But when I walked into the door, I had to turn sideways because he had so much stuff in the entrance.
In the door?
In the doorway.
Okay.
So he tells me it's not usually like this, and I say to myself, I think it normally is. You know,
Right.
it is. It is what it is. So we walked through nice house too, a really nice house. Walking the rest of the house, there's he's a bachelor.
Right.
Does nobody lives with him. Clothes all over the place. Kind of looks like how my house looks sometimes. Clothes all over the place on the couch, stuff everywhere, dishes in the kitchen. So things like that, you want to make sure that you declutter,
Right.
and kind of do your spring cleaning when you get ready to put your house on the market. Items that you do not need anymore, get rid of those.
Right.
Make sure that you do a proper cleaning and dusting and all that good stuff, because buyers, they see everything when they're walking through the property. Everything.
And sometimes they can't imagine if they see a bunch of junk.
Right.
They can't imagine.
It also takes away from, so if you have for instance, if you have a large family room or something of the sort, if you have clutter everywhere and you have, a bunch of furniture and, mismatching all over the place, it can make the room appear to be small.
Right.
However, that's something that you want to capitalize on. You want the buyer to see how big the room is, so they
Right.
can envision themselves in there with their furniture and all that good stuff. The next thing that you want to do is you definitely want to remove any personal photos.
Right.
You can't have your photos up on the wall
Right.
of you, Uncle Larry, Uncle Leroy, and Aunt Agatha from the family reunion hanging on the wall. Take them down, put them up in a box, or put them up somewhere. However, you do want to keep some photos up. So photos that are not personalized, it could be a painting.
Right.
Now let me say this: make sure it's a decent painting. I had a guy who had a painting on the wall, but it was of a naked woman
Oh.
showing naked things. Okay. You got to take that down.
Right.
He was kind of irritated about that, but he had to take it down. Or I had a client, one of the other things is religion.
Right.
So some people are very religious, which is fine. However, one of the things that you don't want to do is have those religious items
Yes.
in your home on showcase.
Because that might mess up another person's feng shui or something.
The feng shui.
Right.
The feng shui, right. Cortez is up on his lingo.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. So not necessarily the feng shui. However, it could cause the buyer to take, to look at the property in a different manner.
Oh, yeah.
I had a client, we were looking at a property, and I won't say what type of religion this person was practicing at their home, but it was a little very different from what my client was, and they just didn't really get a good vibe.
Right.
They loved the house. It was nice and open and things like that, but because of the items that were around in the house, it was a
Right.
turnoff for them. They decided to not move forward with it. That was a loss.
I remember I did an open house in Santa Monica with a realtor, and this particular seller had fish everywhere.
Aquarium fish?
Yes.
Okay.
In 3 or 4 different places in the house, like big tanks.
Right.
And people have problems with that
Oh,
for
yeah.
some reason.
It's pretty interesting. Pets,
Cats.
people love pets. That's another thing. I'm not saying get rid of your pets.
Right.
Keep the pets, but try to declutter, where the pets normally, whatever
Right.
little sections that they have in the house, and, make sure you clean up stuff after them.
Have the rug clean.
Oh my gosh, please have the rug clean. Have the rug clean. Another thing is like the backyard. If you have pets, if you don't pick up after your pets, that's something that you probably want to do
Right.
before you put the house on the market. I'll give you another example. I was at a house, walked in the backyard, walking around, looking up around the roof, not paying attention, stepped right in it. Stepped right in it, man. So that's something that's something that you definitely want to take into consideration when you're thinking about putting your property on the market. Again, photos, cleaning up, maintenance, those are pretty much some of the bigger items that you want to take advantage of when you're getting ready to put your property on the market. Another thing that you may want to consider. So I've had clients who, and they will admit they may not have the best selection of furniture, which is fine.
Right.
Not everybody is an interior designer or a decorator or anything of the sort. But one of the things that you do want to do is that you want to show because what people need to understand is that when you place your property on the market, it is a competition.
Right.
You are competing with the seller down the street and around the corner in your neighborhood. And you can best believe that the buyers will see your home as well as many other homes in the area. So the feeling that you have about your home may not be the same one that buyer has. So you want to convey that to them in certain ways. How do you do that? You do that in your presentation of your home.
Right.
So again, staging. There are several different staging companies that are out there that you can take advantage of. Hopefully your realtor can recommend some to you. And in some cases, my partner, she believes that she is I guess you can say she's a professional stager at this point. She actually went and got her certification.
Oh, she did?
She did.
Did she charge for that service?
She does not charge for the service. She does it. It's part of our listing,
Right.
package and presentation. So it comes with it. So you get a professional stager when you hire us to sell your home.
But what would you do if the house was empty?
That's another good question. So I know in the past, we'd place a property on the market and you would assume, the house is vacant. Nobody lives in the house. It should be an easy sale.
Right.
But again, people have a hard time visualizing what the house would look like if it was lived in, or what certain rooms can be utilized for. You walk into a house with a buyer and they say, well, what is this, the living room or the family room?
Right.
Or, how big of where can I put my TV at, or where can I put my couch at? And a lot of times that's conflicting. So what will happen is that person, they'll go look at the house. They'll have some sort of a visualization in their head of what they may want to do. And then they end up wanting to come back to the house once they've kind of figured it all out in their head.
Right.
Take measurements and things like that, which is fine. However, for a vacant home, I would suggest, depending on what type of property it is, that you have it staged.
Right.
Hire a professional staging company. And again, your realtor may be able to assist you in terms of finding a company with that. And they're not that expensive. It does cost, but they're not that expensive. But it definitely will help you make sure that you maximize the amount of money that you can make on your home and sell it in a quick time frame.
And see, that's probably why the home builders, KB Homes, Lennar Homes, they have their models staged.
Exactly.
Not just vacant.
All of their models
top
are out,
dollar.
and which
Right.
is why when you do go to some of those home sites, they always show you the model.
Right.
They will show you a vacant home, but more than likely you're going to see the model that's staged.
Right.
Pretty much. I think it's one of the best things that's happened to this industry. Because previously, years ago, you didn't see many realtors or sellers doing staging. It was only home builders.
Right.
And now it's kind of evolved, and now almost every home you go into, there's some sort of staging.
So let the listeners know, whose cost is it if they hire a staging company?
It is the seller's cost.
Yes.
That is your cost. And depending on how long the items that you are needing are in the property will determine sometimes the cost, as well as what items you're using. So if, whether it be a couch or a table, all of those items have a cost.
Right.
And it's kind of like a la carte. So what happens is that your stager they'll come in and make the recommendations, and based upon the budget that you have to work with, you can pick and choose what items you want to mix and match in the home. You can say, okay, well, I'd rather do just the living room and the kitchen,
Right.
or the kitchen and the bathroom, or you can mix and match or something of the sort. It doesn't have to be all that elaborate. In some cases, I've had clients, they just stage certain sections of the home, just the living room,
Exactly.
kitchen,
Right.
kind of give it that homey feeling. So those are some of the things that you'll see. But again, it is the seller's cost. Now, most staging companies, once you are some will require a payment up front, a deposit.
Right.
Some will require a small fee to be paid
Okay.
up front, and then at the end of the staging contract, when the items need to be taken away, you can pay the remainder of the balance. But again, that is on the seller,
Gotcha.
not the agent. That does not come from the agent's pocket.
Please.
Please don't ask me,
Right.
because you will get a big no.
Right.
Okay. So that's one thing. So now you've done all that. You're staging. You decluttered. You did everything that you're supposed to do. Now you got to figure out, okay, pricing. How am I going to price my property?
Right.
The biggest mistake that I see sellers make is they price the property based upon how much money they want to make.
Right.
I had a client who was selling a property, who was thinking about selling his property in Inglewood. And he told me, I won't sell this house for less than $1 million.
Uh-oh.
I said, brother, let me tell you something. And you won't sell it
Right.
for $1 million. Matter of fact, you won't sell it at all.
Right.
I don't care what you do to that. You can have Shaq. You can have
Right.
President Obama sitting in the house. That house will not sell for $1 million.
This person told you $1 million.
$1 million because of all the work that he put into the property.
Right.
How long him and his wife had been there. He told me he would not sell that property for less than $1 million. And he didn't.
And he was serious.
He was serious.
Okay.
He was very serious until I brought him down to reality, and we sold it for $435.
Half price.
Half price, right. He was mad, but it is what it is. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to be realistic. Again, because everybody thinks their home is unique
Right.
compared to everyone else's.
Exactly.
Now, unless you have some custom built home with very unique features in the home, and you have, golden sinks, or your home was designed by some, great architecture,
Right.
or something of the sort, then your home will be valued and compared to similar homes in the area.
Exactly.
So the other thing is that most people look at that and they say, okay, well, I know my house is better than that house down the street. And
Right.
Jerry and them, they sold their house at, $500,000. Okay, yeah. So if you look at some of the other homes, they're selling at the same price, $500,000, $499, $505. Well, I think we should price it at $530, because what happens is that if someone gives me an offer and they give me a low offer, I'll still get what I want. It doesn't work that way.
Exactly.
It does not work that way.
Right.
It's the opposite. So you're thinking about pricing your home. You want it to be competitive. And again, it's all incumbent upon the market or the area that you are in.
Right.
So for instance, if you are in an area where properties are not moving at a faster pace,
Right.
every area in Los Angeles is selling right now. So for instance, I know you had some.
So I took the time and I brought some stats with me
Oh, please share.
from my hometown, Gardena,
Whoop, whoop.
90249.
Okay.
And this is in between the streets of Rosecrans and El Segundo.
Okay. That's a hot pocket right there, too.
Rosecrans and El Segundo.
Right.
And then Western and Crenshaw.
Okay.
Picture that big square block.
Right.
So I have some stats here that are very interesting. And this is an example, a good example for pretty much all areas. Like all areas had an increase.
Right.
So I just picked this particular area because I know it very well. So the first thing that I want to share is that I have a graph here showing the level of inventory. Okay. So this graph goes back to 2014, last year, and the inventory was up here, and starting January 2015, it goes like this.
So it took a dive.
the
And it kind of
inventory.
leveled off.
Right. Well, it took a dive,
Okay.
meaning there's not that many houses for sale.
It is not.
That means low competition.
Right.
And then I have another graph here that shows Now, we all know the real estate market took a downturn in 07, 08, 09.
Right.
And then around 2010, things started to level out and then start to go up. And I have data here showing from what I did was I literally printed out all the sales since 2010.
Wow.
So
In Gardena.
in this particular pocket,
Right.
90249,
Right.
there are 383 sales
Wow.
in that 5-year period. And there's homes that have sold on this paper back in 2010, 2009 for 240, 380, 375, 335, 345.
All right. So it looks like it's been a gradual increase.
It's been a gradual increase. 2010, 349, 305, 320, 294, 280. There's a 394.
So what's the average in Gardena now?
So now, after that 5 years, now we're 2010 all the way to 2015. So I get this data sheet every week.
Oh yeah, the advanced metrics, the
Right.
Altos. Yeah, those are
Right.
awesome.
So this is saying, now I got this chart Monday, August 3rd. The median list price for Gardena 90249 is $459. Gardena
Wow. Gardena, 459.
90249. These are 3-bed, 2-bath homes. This is the median list price right now. But in 2010, it was in the 300s or even 280.
Wow.
So it took a gradual, now some areas like Culver City or something might be faster.
Right.
Might go up fast, or Torrance. South Torrance might go up faster, right?
Right.
Asking price per square foot, $343.
Per square foot.
Right. Now, let me rewind. The median list price, $459, is leveling right now. The trend is level.
Right.
The asking price per square foot, which is $343, is going down. Average days on the market is going up. Average days on the market, 43 days on the market. The median size house is 1,291 square feet. The average lot is 4,500 square feet, 3-bed, 2-bath.
Those stats are extremely interesting because those numbers are almost identical and are returning to the same number as it was when we were at the real estate peak.
Exactly.
I mean, you couldn't purchase. I mean, I knew the market was getting pretty crazy when you couldn't buy a home in Compton,
right.
in Watts, for less than $400,000.
Right.
Really?
So I closed the Compton transaction about 2 months ago for about $315.
Right.
Now, the most recent sale in this Gardena 90249,
Right.
I have it right here. A street called Perchie, and I grew up.
Oh, everybody knows Perchie.
Right. Exactly. I grew up 2 streets away from Perchie. The address is 13804 Perchie. List price was $450. It sold for $350. June 12th.
Wait a minute. It was listed at $450 and sold at $350?
No, $450.
Oh, okay.
So the $450. Let's see here. RDAF. So RDAF is the last street in the track. 13124 RDAF, listed for $454, sold for $465. So they may have had multiple
Offers on that property.
offers.
So a good point that you made there. So it kind of further explains what I was talking about. If you price your property correctly,
Right.
what happens is that you create a buying frenzy around your
Right.
property, and you end up pitting other buyers against each other. Sorry, buyers, but this is
Right.
for sellers. So
Right.
you end up pitting those buyers against each other, creating a multiple offer situation. You end up making more money than what you thought you were going to make on a home. So like you said, that house was listed at $450.
Right.
It was probably at the bottom or very competitive in terms of where it is compared to some of the other homes in that area.
Right.
And what happened was they probably generated a ton of interest on the property with buyers, and they got in a multiple offer situation, and voila, they were able to get, what was it, 464?
Let's see here. 465.
465.
Now, I have one more example for you because I sold a house. I mean, I did a loan on the house on this street, but this is not in that square. This house is by Sarah High School, which
Okay.
is on the other side of Rosecrans, going south on Van Ness Boulevard.
Right.
This house is 15516 Parent Avenue. So this house listed for $475.
Wow.
Now those houses are a little smaller than, so here's Rosecrans. On this side is where I grew up. Then Rosecrans, and this side is the other
So
side.
you grew up north of Rosecrans.
Right.
And these homes are south of Rosecrans.
Right. So
Right.
these homes are a little bigger, but a little less.
Right.
These homes are smaller and a little more. Is going near El Camino or
Right.
Torrance. Right.
And the reason, and that's another good point that you make, having your agent know your area.
Right.
If you don't know how to price that property and you use comps from on the north side of Rosecrans,
Right.
you will have a lower value.
You cannot use those comps.
You cannot.
And if you have an out of area realtor,
Right.
they're not going to know that.
It's impossible.
So that's why I picked this area because I know this area. But this is interesting. A smaller home
Right.
on the other side of Rosecrans, going towards El Camino and Torrance,
Right.
listed for $475. It's sold for $494.
Wow.
Right? So it's definitely a seller's market. I mean, we both know this is the summertime.
Right.
We're in August. And you know, as soon as Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Santa Claus get here,
Oh, the market slows down.
market's going to
And
slow
in
down.
January, boy, oh boy,
right,
realtors go on vacation.
Realtors go on vacation, tax return.
They don't do no work except this brother here.
Right.
I take no days off.
Exactly.
So, and I'm glad you touched on that point in terms of like what happens in the later months.
Right.
So I get a lot of clients that say, oh, I think I'll wait and put my property on the market.
Right.
A little later on. Well, you may not have later on. And the reality is if you do put your property on the market after the summer months, during the school months, which is September, October, November, December, and the
Right.
holidays, you will sell your property. However, it will probably last on the market a lot longer.
Right.
You may not garner a higher price as you would have by placing it on the market in the summertime. And in some cases, depending on where you are, you could drastically reduce the price on your property, or in some cases, you may not sell it in as quick as a time frame as you would have liked to. So all of these are key factors. And location. People hear that all the time. Location. A house on a main street that sits on a main street
Right.
will have a far different price than if you move that house and put it in the neighborhood setting in the middle of the block.
Or a house facing an airport.
A house facing an airport. Right. I
Right.
remember that one.
Right.
House facing the airport.
Right.
Or a corner lot may be priced differently than a property that sits in the middle of the block.
Right.
A house that sits on an alley
Exactly.
will be priced differently. I mean, you literally have to take all these things into account because buyers do.
right.
Nowadays, buyers, they are extremely smart. There are several different tools. I mean, they're
Right.
smarter than some of these. I'd probably say 90% of the realtors, which are whack,
Right.
I must say, that are out there, most buyers are smarter than.
Right.
Because they have the same data that realtors have at their
Same
fingertips,
data.
they are able to obtain as well. And they're more knowledgeable, some of these buyers, than some realtors out there when it comes to, buying and selling. So from that standpoint, you have to know your location. You have to take those things into account. So when you're meeting with your realtor and you guys are talking about pricing your property, follow your realtor's lead. You definitely, want to give some input and talk to them and come up with a great pricing strategy that you both agree upon. But at the end of the day, you all definitely want to take into consideration other determining factors that may not have been that important to you when you bought the property, but could be important to another buyer, especially in a competitive market such as this.
Right. And so you mentioned another thing about we're almost hitting the point of the real estate bubble.
Right.
And so you know what happened when the bubble hit.
It pops.
It pops. Now, from a loan officer point of view, I believe this is the time for a seller to sell. Let me tell you why. Because the rates are low.
Right.
It's easier for a buyer to qualify at 4% than compared to 6%.
Right.
Once these rates go up to 5 and 6%, the buyer is going to qualify for less.
Right.
So right now, people want to sometimes wait and get every dollar they can, but as we speak, they are winning right now.
Winning.
We don't know, right? We don't know if these rates will last 6 months, 1 year, or 2 years.
Right.
But right now, I will tell you that homes selling for $475, that's a pretty good payment already.
Right.
And so typically there are not high income earners like physicians moving into this area.
Moving into Gardena in the LA area.
Right. Like these are people who, honest
middle income, middle class income people.
Middle class income people. So when this gets to be too high, it's gonna not be affordable, especially when the interest rates hit 5 and 6%.
Right.
So I believe from a loan officer standpoint, we have the good sales comps right now. We have the low interest rates right now.
Right. It's a perfect storm.
It's a perfect storm to sell.
I mean, the other thing is that there are so many other factors that happen to determine what the outcome of the market looks like. I remember at a time when I don't think anybody really thought that what was going to happen back in 2007, 2008,
right,
that it would happen. People thought, you could literally put a house on the market and put in almost any price on that property.
Right.
And some idiot would come and buy it.
Right.
Pay $500,000 in Watts, sold.
Right.
Stuff like that. Didn't make any sense. But so no one knows and no one expects when the market is to change. However, I do know this. As you said, when interest rates go up, the market will change. Also, what goes on in terms of with the presidential race that's happening.
Exactly.
So next year in 2016,
right,
as the presidential race starts to heat up and we start seeing the contenders, what the market will start to fluctuate based upon who they assume will, win out or be the next president.
Right.
And then after, the new president takes office, the market will change. What it will go to, no one knows.
And I was talking to your partner the other day.
Yes.
And I told her, if the market will, I forgot what I said. She said, if. She's like, it's going to change.
Oh, it will.
Period.
Right.
This is how things are now. It's not going to last.
Right. In real estate, if you think about it like this, it's very simple, the concept. So it's the same thing kind of like the stock market. You buy low, sell high.
Right.
Right now, times are flying high. You sell your property if need be. If you need to buy, now is also a good time to buy, even though prices are high, because interest rates are fairly low.
Right.
So what will happen is that when the market does fluctuate and prices start to be a little bit more conservative and they stagnating and kind of stay leveled and level off, what will happen is that so will buyers. So what happens when that happens is that, number one, it'll turn into a buyer's market.
Right.
Well, buyers will be lowballing and
right,
asking for closing costs and,
right.
I want a new roof on the house. And, I had a client ask for that. I want a new roof, new windows. I said, you can't ask for that.
Right.
And you can ask for, depending on the condition of the property, you can ask for a roof. I've seen some sellers do that, but don't get carried away.
Right.
But at the end of the day, again, no one knows what's going to happen in the market within the near future. So you definitely want to strike while the getting is good. So if you take advantage of a lot of the points that I touched on in terms of, knowing your property, decluttering, staging, pricing. That's probably the most important piece. Even if you don't do those things, even if you do not stage your property, even if you do not have the ability or have the time and energy to declutter and take some of those things out, the price of your property will determine whether it sells or not, and how much you make on it.
Right. Now I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
So we talked about, like you said, decluttering, staging, pricing, market conditions. What are the expectations of the seller as far as showing the house? Like, what would you?
I would say, prior to you putting it on the market, you definitely want to have it. Really, a couple of things come into play. So, the area that your home is in will determine how you show your property, as well as what you're comfortable with. So, in some cases, I've had clients say, "Well, I don't want an open house.
Right.
I don't want everybody just coming in my house and just walking around and aimlessly or anything like that." There are things that you can do to prevent, you can't prevent it all, but what you try to do is try to corral it and maintain it and monitor it. So open houses, and then midweek showings, like during the week.
Right.
I suggest, and what I do is I do group showings, as opposed to, having somebody call and say, I want to see the house at 3. Then another person, I want to see the house at, 4, 5, 6. You do group showings.
Right.
So what you do is when those people call and you say, I'll be there showing the property at this particular time. And then what you can do is you can set those showings in, 10 to 15 minute increments. Okay, you come at 3, you come at 3:15, you come at 3:30, and, yada, yada, yada. Within an hour, you've shown the property to, about 4 or 5, 6 people. So I typically do that, but you definitely want to make the property available, because you can't sell a property that no one can see.
So would you have buyers, like, I noticed some realtors have the seller's number on the MLS.
Right.
You call the seller direct, they'll show it to you.
You pay for what you get.
Right.
So sometimes you'll have agents. So some agents, they do what is called it's an exclusive listing, but they do it at a reduced commission. So the seller will say, well, yeah, I want to make X amount of dollars. I don't want to pay, a 6% commission, which is pretty much industry standard. So they may start cutting away at the realtor's commission, or the realtor may offer them with a reduced commission and say, hey, I'll sell your property for 3% commission. And the only caveat to that is I'll market it, you do the showings.
Right.
Really? I mean, at the end of the day, if you were trying to sell your property, unless you have all day to spend to show your property,
right,
I think in some situations it could be unprofessional.
Right.
Having your client show the property.
Right.
Because what happens is that you, as a seller, you will be asked a question sometimes from the buyer or the other agent who's coming to the property that you may not be prepared for, and you may give an answer that they didn't, appreciate or understand, or didn't, I don't want to say didn't need to know, but they just didn't, take it the right way. So what happens is, as a realtor, your job is to take those questions and answer them in a format and in a way where the buyer and the agent understand it, but you don't give away everything.
Right.
So I definitely think, it can be done for some people depending on the situation. But I would suggest that, obviously at the end of the day, if you're hiring a realtor and you're paying them 6%, I keep saying 6, not 5, not 4,
right,
6%. That you actually allow them to do their job and let them show the property, whether it be them themselves or they may have a showing agent or something of the sort.
Right.
And that's another thing, talking about commission. You pay for what you get. And, if you have a realtor that you can just cut their commission and you can say, I don't want to pay you X amount of dollars. I'll pay you 4%.
Right.
Or I'll pay you 3%. And your realtor doesn't really negotiate with you on it or give you any,
Right.
flack or feedback on that. Your realtor sucks.
Right.
I'm being honest. Your realtor sucks.
And plus, the buyer realtors are not going to show that house.
No, they're not.
Right.
Not for no 2%. I had an agent offer 1%. I looked at that property and said, pass.
Exactly.
Right. So, just kidding. But at the, at the end of the day, you want your realtor to. A couple of things happen when you pay your realtor a good commission. Number one, they can offer the other realtor a good commission.
Right.
Meaning that they can offer them 3%, 2.5%.
Right.
Some agents, that's what they work. They literally will not do a property for less than a certain percentage. Some
Right.
agents. Secondly, you're rewarding your realtor and you put the expectation upon them that, hey, I'm paying you top dollar, 6% commission. I want to see what you're going to do for that commission. What are you going to do?
Right.
So those are things that you want to take into consideration because, if you pay, if your realtor takes a low ball commission, he's a low ball agent.
Exactly.
You
you can't lowball your physician.
You sure, man?
Or your attorney.
And see, that's the thing, about working with your realtor and respecting that, that business is in terms of when you go to the doctor or you go to an attorney. When you go to your doctor's office, your doctor says, I need to do a blood test. All right, doctor, that blood test, how much is that going to be? I got to give it to me for $55. That's it. No more, no less. It doesn't happen that way. You get a bill for $100 and some odd dollars, you're going to pay that bill.
And that's it.
That's it. When you go see your attorney and your attorney says a $3,000 retainer fee or this is what my services are, you don't say, I give you $500 and let's call it even.
Right. Now let me ask you a question. Let the listeners know we're talking about commissions,
right?
Realtor commissions. Are there any upfront fees?
No.
No.
There are no upfront fees in terms of paying your realtor, and there are no fees throughout the transaction.
Right.
The realtors are paid from your proceeds.
Right.
So, you don't have to have that cash sitting on him where you pay the realtor. It comes out of your proceeds at the end of the sale. And for those of you who are in a transaction or who are in a property that's upside down, such as a short sale, where your property you owe more than what the property is worth, the lender, the bank, will pay your realtor's commission.
Right.
You pay nothing. They will pay your realtor's commission. They will pay your past due taxes. They will pay county taxes. The only thing that they may not pay is, and they typically don't, are any other outstanding liens that are on the property, like IRS liens, personal tax liens that you have on the property, judgment liens and things like that.
What about HOA, delinquent HOA?
Sometimes they do. Majority of the time they don't.
Right.
You're going to have to price your property in a way to make it attractive to where you can have a buyer come in, not only be able to purchase your property, but in some cases also pay that judgment or that lien. So in essence, you may not be able to price your property at the top of the market and then have a buyer come in, not only pay top dollar for your property, but they have to pay this $10,000 lien that you have on the property as well. It's not going to happen.
Exactly.
So you have to have an attractive, or you'd have to have your price much lower than what some of the other homes are in the area.
Now, before we run out of time here, quickly tell the listeners what you need to get started in order to sell their home.
Really and truly, it is very easy. The only thing that I need from a seller to get started on their home, sign my listing contract. That's it. Sign my listing contract, and then that's what, you go to work from there. Because the first thing that we try to do is, we do a walkthrough.
Right.
We sit down with the seller, talk to them about, why they're selling, what's their motivation, and try to get that information. And then the next thing we want to do is we like to take a walkthrough of the home.
Right.
Take pictures so we can kind of have an idea of, what things may need to be moved around or changed or stuff like that. Because you can actually, if you can't afford to hire a staging company and, bring in pieces to the home, you can use what you got.
Right.
So, your realtor may change some things around in a property or something like that. Nothing major, but just make it look a little bit more attractive to buyers that are looking in that area. But that's it. Once you sign the listing contract, we go to work.
Do you put a sign up? Do you recommend a sign in the front yard?
I think that all depends on the buyer.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. So I sold a property for my dad not long ago, and I didn't put a sign up in the yard. And he's old school, so he was like, put a sign in the yard.
Right.
Nobody gonna buy the house without a sign in the yard. I was like, Dad, well, majority of people, the sign in the yard is strictly for me.
Right.
People drive by, they see my name. It's for me. It rarely happens where you get a buyer who drives by a property and sees a sign and then buys it. It happens, but it's a small percentage.
Right.
For the most part, most buyers have agents, or if they don't have an agent, they're online looking at properties.
Right.
So it just depends upon your situation. You can talk to your realtor about that in terms of whether you want a sign or not. Some areas will not allow you to have a sign.
Oh,
like
really?
Some condos, some homes that are in gated communities or have homeowners associations.
Okay.
Will not allow you to have a sign. But again, those are things that can be talked about with the realtor. And it's all based upon preference.
Okay.
But we touched upon a lot of good stuff today. Definitely, I appreciate the information. That
You're
brought.
welcome.
That's good advanced metrics that you have there. But thanks for tuning in to the all new Real Estate Reality Show. Catch us next week, and have a great rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
You're listening to the Real Estate Reality Show with EJ Hawkins and Cortez M. Johnson. Only on LA Talk Radio.